Hi everybody, welcome to Not Your Normal Nerding. I'm going to talk about perspectives today on how people not only define happiness, but how they understand it. So let's look at one thing. First off is, how do you know what happiness is to somebody? Everybody defines it differently. Part of it has to come with the experiences that you've had in your life that helps you define what good for you and bad for you is. And the other side of the coin is, what are we raised or slowly taught to believe what happiness is? Some people are taught to believe that the more money you have, the more happier you are. The more joy you have in your life, the happier you are, the more in tune with nature, the more you can give. Everybody has or was raised differently, so we see happiness, joy, the good emotions, the good things in our life very, very differently. So let's kind of dissect it just a little bit so that we can see it from the same perspective. So think of it from this perspective, and the reason why I'm actually making this video is one of my friends and I, we had a conversation yesterday evening about how we look at, how we appreciate these good emotions in our life, how we appreciate these good feelings in our life. So this is one of those things where I have this conversation with people every now and then, and ultimately I figured might as well share it with the rest of the world. Our conversation went something like this. When you look at the people in this world, how people understand what happiness is, what joy is, especially why we appreciate the things we do, is because there are limits. We were talking about a person who is towards the end of their life, and they are looking at their death, their point in dying. Lots of families, their young children, the person's children sometimes has a problem with really understanding what death is. Everybody understands that death has to deal with the fact that your heart stops, your body ceases to do its function. You are not responsive anymore. Well, that's a mechanical way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is death occurs and the human side, the person itself, doesn't have the capacity to be who they are anymore, to invoke the feelings and emotions that they did to another person. So we're going to look at that psychological perspective just a bit. So how do you really define and perceive the fact that somebody, no matter how you look at any kind of relationship you have, regardless if it's a mom and child relationship, a husband and wife relationship, a brother-sister relationship, a relationship in a group of people, every relationship you have, best friends, whatever it is, the reality is they are all temporary. It sounds really bad, but it's actually a really good thing if you really take a step back to think about it. All relationships terminate, regardless of the relationship. So they terminate. Let's look at a typical friendship, your best friend. You get into a relationship and you two become best friends. At some point, let's just say you get into an argument and the best friendship dissolves. That terminates that relationship. Let's look at the other side of the coin. Is this relationship lasts so long, but at some point it just slowly fades away, as in it naturally dissolves without any negative emotions, is still terminated. Now let's look at the other side of the coin. Let's say none of that happens. Your friend dies. Well, technically that relationship terminates, or you die, that relationship, that best friend relationship terminates. Your parent dies, or your child dies, that terminates a relationship, that ends that relationship. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? It depends on how you process that relationship. Sometimes it is a good thing, and sometimes it's a bad thing. Realistically, if you value a relationship, it's a good thing, because people, when you realize that all relationships, your mom's gonna die. So what do? Oh gosh, mom's gonna die. I didn't realize this. How do you not realize this? Everybody dies. It's just nobody expects it to occur at the least opportune time. They always want it to occur on their time. Unfortunately, that life doesn't work that way. Life never happens on this person's time, or your time, or my time. How I would like everything to happen. It just doesn't happen that way. I don't know when my mom's going to die. I don't know when my dad is going to die. I don't know when my brothers and sisters are going to die. I don't know when my nephews are going to die. I don't know when I'm going to die. I have a good idea, but for all I know, let's just say I die of old age, maybe in my 70s. So if you look at that, I got somewhat 30 some odd years to go. But the reality of it is, if I am standing in here in my house, can a tornado topple my house over and I die immediately? Absolutely. I walk out into the street and I get hit by a car, can I die? Absolutely. So it doesn't matter if you protect yourself in the house or go out in public or whatever it is. The reality is, you don't know when you're going to die. So what does that mean overall? Why wait until it hits you that, oh my gosh, mom's about to die here in a few months, or she's getting old, she's looking at her end stage of life, or whatever it is, or dad is doing the same thing. All of a sudden, you just shortened the time that you had to develop that relationship the way you would want to. I am getting into my middle age. My mom and my dad are getting into their older ages. They're over the age of 60, both of them. So when did I realize that relationships terminate? And we're going to look at that simple fact. A very, very long time ago. When I was younger, I realized that not all relationships, my best friends or so, they come and go. My closest friends, they come and go. Acquaintances, they come and go. Even my girlfriends, they came and went. Are all relationships great relationships? No. Are all relationships bad relationships? No. You can take the good from any relationship and keep it. That gives you the positive aspect of it. And you can learn from all those bad things, which also, if you can learn from all those things that made a relationship not go well, you can take all those negative aspects of a relationship and still turn them into a positive outcome. So when I was younger, understanding that relationships terminate, that changed my focus on how I developed my relationships, including with my parents. After all this time or so, I learned how to cherish and value my relationships that I have with my parents, with my siblings, with my nieces and nephews, because in the end, at some point, I'm not going to be able to have that relationship with them anymore. It's going to terminate. It's going to end. Do I want it to end? No. Is it going to happen? Absolutely. And we have to accept the fact that it will happen. There's nothing we can do about it. There's no way of living longer. We have all these medical technologies that help us to support life better and longer. But ultimately, all the best efforts in the world, everyone dies at some point in their life. We just don't know when. We can support life until you're 90 or 100, But that doesn't mean you're not going to get hit by a car tomorrow. So evaluate those relationships and realize that every relationship will terminate. Even the most beautiful relationship you have with a spouse, no matter how great it still terminates. So what has happened in our world for me to have this particular video that I'm making? So we're going to look at two different sides of a coin again, the perspective side of it. How do we know what is good in our life and what is bad in our life? Reality is we don't. Everybody sees pain differently. And I look at it this way. Say somebody slaps you on your hand. If 1,000 different people got slapped on the hand, they would perceive it very differently. If I slapped myself on my hand, I did it on purpose. No big deal. Does it feel uncomfortable? Absolutely. If my nephew slapped me on the hand, would it hurt as much? Probably not, because they're little kids. They're not going to hit that hard. Maybe they're doing it to get my attention. So different perspective. If my mom slaps my hand with the same amount of force that I did, really, let's just say I did it really hard. Well, that's probably my mom telling me, you messed up somewhere. If a stranger slaps me on the hand the same force or so, I'd be like, excuse me. So those perspectives of even slapping somebody on the hand is very, very different. Some people like the sensation. Some people don't like the sensation. Some people question the sensation. Different perspectives on why, by different people, on why you got slapped. Some people, it hurts. Some people like it. Some people don't like it. Whatever. Ultimately, different perspectives, different ways of looking at the same action by different people. So if you were to just have happy moments your entire life, never anything bad that you perceive as bad has ever happened to you. And once again, everyone perceives bad differently, but if all those bad things that you thought were bad in your life, all those negative things that happened in your life that caused you to cry, caused you to feel pain, caused you to hurt, caused you to feel anguish, you never had any of those things happen to you, and only good things happen to you. How do you know what good actually is? How do you know what bad actually is? You can't differentiate between the two because you've never had something bad happen to you. Well, the reality of it is we have good and bad. And why do we have good and bad? And I look at it from my perspective is all the bad things that happen to me, all the negative emotions I feel, you have them in life. So you understand what good is to you, what feels good to you, what makes you happy, what makes you smile, what gives you joy in your life. And it also at the same time, whenever you have something bad happen to you, or your definition of bad, it helps to reevaluate, helps you to see all the things that you're thankful for, all the things that you cherish and value in your life as well too. Gives you the reason to appreciate those good things that happen in your life. So if somebody has 10 bad things that happen to them, then the one good thing, they appreciate a whole lot. But if you have 9 good things that happen to you and you only have one bad thing, you technically will appreciate all those 9 good things less. And the reason why is because you just don't have a lot of bad things that happen to you. If you have a lot of bad things that happen to you, the one good thing that happens to you in life, you enjoy, you appreciate, you cherish a whole lot more. The good thing is all the bad things help people to look at valuing and cherishing all the good things that they do have in life. So some people are a little bit more antiquated to understanding all the things they should be thankful for than others. And when we look at the 80-year-old lady who is deathly ill, at some point she will die. At some point, life ends. At some point, that relationship with all the people that she has connections with terminates. some people, children, husbands, family members, other loved ones, may not be ready for her to terminate that relationship with them. Can she control it at this point? Probably not. Do people push to continue somebody's life even though this is going to ultimately happen? Absolutely. You see this all the time in healthcare. And the reason why is because it is this person doesn't know how to cherish or be thankful for the relationship they have with this other person who will terminate this relationship. They're not ready for it. It's technically, if you look at it, it's called being selfish. This lady, she may not be able to accept her situation. She may not be ready for her relationships to terminate. At some point, it is going to happen. Fear, anxiety, stress, anger, these hinder our capacity to evaluate a situation and be able to cherish and be thankful for those times that we had, because maybe this person didn't realize that, hey, tomorrow I'll fix this relationship, and then tomorrow happens and they still don't fix it. It's like, well, I'll do it the next day, or I'll do it the next week, and they keep on putting it off. Is it a good idea to put off things that terminate without a good time base on when they terminate? The reality is no. So the best thing always to do is to always realize that all relationships terminate at some point. If you don't want to regret it, then you make sure that whatever you do is something that you're going to be happy with, you don't regret. And even if it terminates early and you didn't have all the time you want, you can be happy knowing that up to this point, that relationship was built and maintained in a way that gives you closure. So the thing about cherishing the good things in somebody's life is to realize that there is something that we don't like to happen will. Otherwise, something that we consider negative, something that we consider not our typical routine, something that happens out of the ordinary. And our bottom line is, change is not something people like, but it does happen. Our world changes, our relationships change. Even a marriage, when you first get married versus 10 years down the road, that relationship has changed. Brothers and sisters, they get older. Those relationships change. They're supposed to change. They're supposed to grow. They're supposed to, over time, get adjusted based upon circumstances, perceptions, preference, value. So those things are supposed to change. Can they change in a good way? Yes. Can they change in a bad way? Absolutely. But if they do change in a bad way, and they need to be in that relationship terminates, regardless if it's because of a death or because it just wasn't a good relationship and everybody goes their separate ways, it's still terminated. If you do your best to make those relationships as good as they are, as best as they are, you don't regret it, and you're ready and you're happy whenever they do terminate, because you put your best effort into building a relationship. That's the thing about life, is everything in life, doesn't matter if it's a house that you lived in, a car that you drove, a friendship that you built, a book that you've read. All these things end at some point. And regardless if it's because you died, but you enjoy the moments that you have them. You cherish that opportunity that you got to do all this. And especially with people. People have, pets as well too, have the capacity to transition emotions. Otherwise, you give an emotion, they give an emotion back. So it's very, very nice to give and receive at the same time. But cherish those things that you have when it comes to relationships that have emotion with it, because at some point they will terminate. And if you're not thankful for it, you're going to regret your actions in the long run. So always look at building positive relationships with people, no matter how hard it is, because when you do, when that relationship terminates, you're always going to be happy with the result, and you're not going to ever regret it. Thank you.